What's up everybody, JJ here, and today I'm going to be trying to answer the biggest question everyone has to answer when you're trying to install Klipper on your 3D printer. Should you go with Fluid or Mainsail? I mean, you could stick with Octoprint, but you might be missing out on some amazing features that Fluid or Mainsail have to offer, since those were both designed for Klipper in mind. I wanted to make this video to compare your two options because I think a lot of people will just maybe ask it on Reddit, read a comment, just go with that one, or see what a YouTuber is doing. In my Klipper setup video, I used Fluid. If you go to Nero 3D's YouTube Klipper setup video, he might have used Mainsail. And then you're just going with one option and maybe missing out on something that might be the right option for you. I think they both have their distinct differences because they're designed by different people. I think they will work better for a different person with a different workflow. Also, this is just a snapshot in time. This is the current status of both of these projects. This might be out of date 6 months to a year from now, so in the future I will probably be updating this video as time goes on. Both these projects will evolve and continue to grow and improve. One big thing I did want to get across with this video is that it's not an either or. You're not joining sides and that the other side is bad. They're both amazing open source projects and we should celebrate both of them at the same time. I will put links in the description down below where you can support these projects. It's great to support open source projects made by the community for the community. It can really go a long way to help out these projects, but I also want to keep this space very positive. There's no name calling, no sides joining, and that the other side is bad just because you like one over the other. They're both different, and I think they're both really good options. Be supportive, be helpful, and let everyone know in the comments down below things that I missed on this video. I'm sure there's going to be something I leave out that you love in one or the other, so make sure to put it down there what your thoughts are, because I did a lot of testing, but that doesn't mean I covered everything in both of them. And one last final disclaimer I have to get out of the way. I have been using Fluid for longer than I've been using Mainsail. Fluid I've been using on my Anycubic Mega S for several months now, and Mainsail I put on my Voron 0.1, and that's been maybe a month of use now. So I've just used Fluid for longer time than Mainsail. And the TLDR, to get it out of the way, get my bias out of the way, I'm going to be sticking with Fluid going forward, but I think there's a lot of reasons why Mainsail would be better for a different workflow. I think it would be the better option for you. So now let's head to the computer where I've got them both installed so we can compare and contrast them side by side. So here we are at the computer with both of the web interfaces open at the same time. So there's 6 different categories I sort of created to compare these two softwares. The first one being ease of installation. The second is customizability. Third will be the text editor. Fourth will be general extra features that are included in there. Fifth is updates and status of the project. And then sixth is kind of a general ease of use between the two. Those are just kind of the ones I picked out. When it comes to ease of installation, I think they are a tie on this one. Fluid comes with Fluid Pi. It's a Pi image already ready to be loaded on your Raspberry Pi, and Mainsail comes with Mainsail OS. It's the same, it's a Pi image with Mainsail and everything you need on there. Klipper, Moonraker, all ready to be flashed to an image and installed on your Raspberry Pi. Super easy. I think it's a tie in this category because both of them are really easy to set up. The second category, customizability, is where we really see some differences in the design styles here. Hands down, I think this one goes to Moonraker, with their customizability is a good bit ahead of Fluid. On Mainsail, you can set up your background images, you can change the logos and icons, you can go even in more in-depth if you know how to change the CSS files. You can change things like even fonts to there. And there are some community themes where people have gone through and fully uploaded entirely new themes to the entire website, and they look very different between each other. I think that's super cool. Fluid, on the other hand, is much more limited. They do give you some community presets, which are really cool. You can change between them. Those change the logos on the top and some of the color themes of the page. You can also select the color theme. That's a single color. That's the theme of the entire website. So it changes your icons, it changes some of the text in various places. So you can customize it. I went to my classic 0, 140, 146, which is the teal that I use on a lot of my printers. You can just use that for a lot of things. So it's really cool that you can change that color. So for changing the colors and the theme of the website, Mainsail wins in this category. The next part to customizability would be moving around the different panels on your dashboard, and they both have great systems for that. In Fluid over here, you can drag around or hide or show the various panels to it. Moonraker again wins this category because under interface settings, you can change it for different ways for the mobile, tablet, desktop, or even a widescreen view of things, moving things to different places. That was one downside to Fluid. If I arrange the tabs in what will look best on the phone, it doesn't look the best on the web page. And then if I make them look the best on the web page, it was harder to use on the phone. So if you're often accessing Klipper from your phone, Mainsail might be the right option for you in this case. I do mostly access it from the desktop, so that's why it's not as big of a deal for me, but the few times I have tried to use it on the phone, I do wish it was better. Another thing with customizability, on your control of the printer section over here, under these gears, you can change, under interface section control, you can change the style. So you can do bars like this one. This reminds me of the interface that was kind of built into the screen of the Anycubic Mega S, or probably other printers, but to be able to change it positive or negative, just laid out like this. You can change it to the circle. I think this is on other interfaces, they use this style or the cross style of forward, back, left, right, up, down, and change your values over here. So you can change that to whatever you want. A really cool feature, I feel like they didn't have to put in here, but it's really nice that it is in here. Fluid, on the other hand, is sort of locked in at this, I think it's similar to the cross of like forward, back, left, right, up, down, your home buttons over here, or being able to put in exactly where you want the printer to go. So customizability is another win for Mainsail, but since I enjoy the controls over on the Fluid side, I don't really have to change them. The next category is the text editor. It's way more important in Klipper to be able to access your text editor than it is in Marlin. In Marlin, you're not going to be changing your config files all that often, but here in Klipper, I change it very often. So to be able to go into, for Fluid, you go to configuration and you got your printer config file here, click it, edit, it opens it here. On the Mainsail side of things, you go down to machine, and then it's got your config files over here on the left, open printer config, and it opens right here. The text editors here are fairly similar. I do like the color scheme of Fluids a little bit better. With Mainsail, these harsh red and harsh greens, I am red-green colorblind, so that is going to throw off my perception of these, but I don't like how harsh these are together. I like sort of the softer coloring of Fluid. I do really like on Fluid, on the right side, you get a panel that shows all of your code in that file. You can kind of see different sections and be able to jump around. Being able to jump around wherever you want is a really nice feature on the desktop, but it's a different story when you go over to the mobile side of things. On mobile, the Fluid text editor, every time I try to scroll, it doesn't scroll very well and it keeps reopening the keyboard. It makes it really difficult to quickly navigate around inside of the app. The text editor from Mainsail works way better with mobile support, so if you use the text editor on your mobile phone very often, Mainsail again takes the win here. But for me, since I mostly use the desktop, I would lean towards Fluid being more feature-rich over here. So I think with my conclusion for the text editors, they're kind of two sides of a coin. One is better for mobile, one is better for your desktop. And for anyone who wants specifics, Moonraker is using CodeMirror, and Fluid is using Monaco text editors. So if you have any experience with either of those, one might be more familiar for you than the other. Now, going on to their website, we can compare the features that they list as their headline features. Thermal presets is another thing that I think the win goes to Mainsail. On Fluid, you can have your presets here. So I've put in the preset for PLA. So if I click this, it takes the extruder to 200 and the heated bed to 60. But if I want just the extruder to go to 200, I have to click on here and type in 200. On the other side, in Mainsail, since I have defined my presets, I can go here and go to PLA, and this will do both of them. But if I go to the actual number, I can click on this drop down and it'll give me all the options of presets. So I can take just the extruder to my preset 200 degrees Celsius. You may have noticed over in Fluid, since Fluid doesn't have this feature, I created an entirely separate macro called heat_hotend that will just take the hot end to 200 degrees Celsius. That way, I don't have to click on it and type in that number. I can just click this button and it takes me to 200. So thermal presets, Mainsail wins again on this one. They do have a different idea on when they go to print history. And I think the winner would again be Mainsail here, but I rarely actually use this tab, so it's not that big of a win for me. If I ran a print farm, I think some of these statistics would be really useful of percentage of completed prints, canceled, or errored prints. That would be pretty important of the efficiency of a printer to see what you need to update or fix, because lost productivity could be lost profits for you. For me, most of these errors or canceled prints were because I was testing something crazy and I was kind of expecting it to fail, and it did fail. So then I canceled the print and reset it. So I don't really care how many times I hit cancel on the printer. On Fluid, it gives you more general information. Here, I think Mainsail gives you more options in what you want displayed here. Again, for me, it doesn't matter that much, but if the history tab is really important for you, Mainsail, I think, could be a winner for you. Next feature being version management and upgrades. They both have a good internal updater here. And the last feature listed on the Fluid page is utilization graphs. That gives you these graphs on the System tab that gives you the entire utilization of various things. Moonraker load, Klipper load, system memory, system load. Disk usage, you can see the storage on your SD card on your Raspberry Pi. So I'm using 5.8 gigabytes and I have 21.2 gigabytes free. So all the time lapses my Raspberry Pi has been creating and I haven't been deleting off of there, it's good to know I've got plenty of time before I need to go in there and delete those off of there. This is a win over Moonraker if you need this information. Moonraker has a much more simplified view of how much usage is on your Raspberry Pi. It gives you a single digit representing the percentage of load times the amount of cores on that system, but it's not a percentage of the amount used. If you have 4 cores and each one is at 50% load, you would see a 200 displayed here. At least that's how I understand it from reading the Discord. So Fluid has a more detailed view, Moonraker has a more simplified view. Do you really need to see how much load is on each of your processes? Probably not. The Moonraker one would probably be fine to just see if this little dial is filled up or not. Now let's read what's different on the Mainsail's feature list. That's the same file manager. This is the big difference for me of why I'll be staying with Fluid and why other people might use Mainsail. In Mainsail, on the main dashboard, you can't access your print jobs. It's not listed here at all. You need to go down into your G-code files. These are where all your uploaded G-codes are, and you can start prints from here. From there, once a print is started on the dashboard, you can then pause it and cancel it up in this standby window here. You also can't reprint from a couple prints ago. This is different than Fluid because on Fluid's dashboard, there's an entire tab where I have all of my G-code files listed out right here. I can even click on my time-lapse folder and open up all my videos of the time lapses that I've recorded. They're all right here, ready to go. Fluid also has a separate tab on the left that is jobs, and you can see a more larger detailed view of them. If you're more interested in that, it's there, but I do really like having it here on the main page. G-code viewer, I think, is more in depth on Mainsail, but I don't really use this feature personally, so it's not that big of a deal. On Fluid, it's listed down here on the main page as beta, but I always keep this tab closed anyways, because for me, I haven't found it all that important. On Mainsail, it's an entire tab on the left, and it's this big in-depth 3D model of it. So again, that's more of a personal choice for you. Time-lapse integration. I have heard the time-lapse integration on Mainsail is more integrated into the system than with Fluids, but there's also been a change in Moonraker since I created my last video on creating time lapses with Klipper. So I haven't really dove into the new changes there, but I think the old way on Fluid was still pretty simple to set up. So time lapse integration, that's great to see, and it might be easier on Mainsail than Fluid, but I haven't fully tested that one out. Powerful macro management, they're both good with their macro management. Exclude objects, they say it's not yet fully supported by Klipper, but if they could get that one fully integrated, people usually mention this as the one plugin to Octoprint that stops them from moving to Fluid or Mainsail. So that one could be huge if they get it integrated well. The next category to compare here is, I'm just calling it general ease of use. This is my workflow, sort of what makes things easy to work with. For me, a big one I already mentioned is having the Jobs tab right here on the main page, and then I can drag and drop. So for example, these are just pictures of Ada as a puppy, but imagine they were print files, and I can just drag and drop them right here onto my dashboard, and they upload and I can print them directly from here. I could go to the Jobs tab and upload them here as well, but here on Moonraker, I can't drag and drop them here. I have to go to G-code files, and then I can drag and drop them here. Another thing with the drag and drop in Fluid's configuration file, I can drag and drop in new config files here. Over in Moonraker, again, imagine this cute picture of Ada is a config file. You can't drag and drop them onto here. You have to go to upload file, and then it will take you somewhere, and here on the desktop I have several different drives here, and so I need to navigate to whichever drive I want. I use a bunch of folders and subfolders, so that's the reason why I usually have what I want already open instead of clicking on it and taking me somewhere different. So I think the Moonraker interface would be more useful if you were on a laptop with a single drive on there, or on a mobile device that only has a single drive, and dragging and dropping files isn't really an option. Here on the desktop, I really like being able to drag and drop config files into the printer. With both of them, in any way you can't drag out of there. So my config file, I can't drag into a folder. Your print file, your G-code files, you also can't drag out. But that's the same for both of them. These two sections are really nice on Mainsail. Your in-stops, you can click this refresh and it tells you the status of all your in-stop buttons. Really useful on when you're first setting up your printer, making sure your in-stops are configured correctly. You can press them, refresh, and make sure they close and open as they're supposed to. So that's just a nice little widget they put there. And log files, being able to directly download your log files from a single button instead of going into logs and then trying to find whichever one is most relevant for you. Just being able to use these buttons, that's another nice feature that's been added here. One other little control that I really like on Fluid, on your dashboard, down here under fans and output, if you have an RGB light configured inside your config file, it shows up here. This one is board RGB, and you can change it right here. You can see the console output a new line to change the RGB color on there, and you can set it to whatever you want, and it changes this little circle to whatever color it's currently set at. That's something I really like, especially for when I was setting up the LEDs to change things and get things configured correctly. It's kind of a fun thing right here on the dashboard, easy to do. On Mainsail, there isn't really that. Under miscellaneous, it just has your fan controls, which is a nice thing to have, but having LED light controls there would be a really nice feature. Another interesting ease of use thing is that on Fluid, a right click and a left click are the same thing. So for example, on Fluid, here's my G-code files. If I left click, it's the same as if I had right clicked on there. It opens up this little tab. It shows the thumbnail of the print I want printed, and I can print it, preheat, edit, download, preview G-code, rename, remove, all these things. But over on Moonraker, if I left click, it opens up kind of this little window that says I can start print or cancel, and it shows a large version of the thumbnail. If I right click, it opens the same, giving you all your more detailed options. And the same thing with my config files. In Moonraker, if I left click print config, it opens the config file. And then if I right click, I can edit, download, rename, delete. In Fluid, it's the same of right clicking and left clicking gives you the same options menu that appears. What I think's kind of interesting about this is that Moonraker's better for mobile, and on mobile you can't right and left click. With Moonraker on mobile, you have to long press on a file to get that little menu to pop up to select different things. I feel like it's more useful on mobile to be able to click on it and it gives you an entire menu instead of clicking on it once. It opens it, you gotta exit out of it. That's just what I think. I feel like these systems would be better if they were reversed, because right click and left click is way more intuitive when you actually have a mouse on a desktop. Again, a lot of these aren't deal breakers, they're just things that I noticed that were difference between the two. The last big category to compare between these two projects are the updates and general communities between these projects. They both have pretty active Discords, and you can go to their GitHubs as well to see kind of the general status of things. Fluid has had a bit of a lapse. The original creator has stepped away from the project, but it was picked up by other members of the community who are going to keep it going. So it has been a while since the last official release of Fluid, but they do have ones they're working on and planning in the future. So I don't think you can write off Fluid as being a dead project. It's been picked up. There are in active development on it. And I would highly recommend anyone going and checking out their Discords. It's a great way to communicate with the developers. It's a great way to ask for feature requests. It is really cool that both of these were developed by different people, and that's why they work in different ways, because different people like different things, so you can find which one works best for you. And that is just about everything we have here at the computer to compare and contrast the two systems. So that's the current state of things and kind of why I'm going to be sticking with Fluid over Mainsail, but I do think Mainsail would be better for people who use the mobile a lot more than I do. I mostly do all my work on the desktop computer anyways, so that workflow just works better for me. But it would be so useful if you let me know in the comments down below which one you're using right now and why that is. Also, let me know down there if I got anything wrong, if there's something that I missed out on that other people should know about. Let everyone know. And that just about wraps up this video. Again, keep it civil down in the comments down below. For this video, I will delete negative comments down there. Let's keep this one positive. And if you have enjoyed this video, hitting that like and subscribe button down below really helps me out, lets other people see this video, lets YouTube know how to pass it on, and algorithm, blah, 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 stuff like that. But anyway, go out there, create something amazing today, and I'll see you in the next video.